Picture walking into your local pub, asking for a drink, and realizing the person placing the pint on the table isn't old enough to drive, vote, or even be there without an adult. That wasn't a scandal. It wasn't unusual. It was allowed. Not long ago, British parents routinely let children do things that today would trigger police visits, fines, and serious legal consequences. These weren't rare mistakes or reckless families. This was everyday life. Let's count them down. Number 1. Children buying fireworks. British parents once sent their children to the corner shop with a few coins and a simple instruction: buy some fireworks for bonfire night, and nobody along the way thought twice about it. Children barely tall enough to see over the counter walked out carrying bangers, rockets, and Roman candles in paper bags, swinging them by their sides as they ran home, lighting the first one in the back garden before the adults even came outside. Accidents were common, fingers were burned, clothes were ruined, and gardens regularly filled with smoke and panic. Yet it was all treated as part of the excitement, a seasonal tradition rather than a safety issue. Today, selling fireworks to a minor would result in heavy fines, criminal charges, and immediate police involvement, and parents who allowed it could face serious consequences. But for decades, this level of danger was simply baked into childhood. Number 2. Children serving alcohol in pubs. In pubs across Britain, children once worked openly behind the bar, carrying pints to tables, collecting empty glasses, and sometimes even pulling drinks under the watchful eye of the landlord. Parents allowed it because it felt harmless, practical, and part of learning responsibility, especially in family-run pubs where everyone helped out. A child carrying alcohol through a crowded pub wasn't suspicious, it was familiar, and no one questioned whether it was appropriate. Today, allowing a minor to serve alcohol would lead to immediate closure of the premises, heavy fines, and criminal charges, and parents involved would almost certainly be investigated. But for much of the 20th century, it was simply how pub life worked. Number 3. Children drinking alcohol at family events. At weddings, birthdays, Christmas dinners, and Sunday lunches, children were often allowed a small glass of beer, cider, or wine poured by parents who believed it was better to introduce alcohol early and teach moderation. It wasn't secretive, rebellious, or hidden. It happened openly at the table, with laughter and no sense that any rule was being broken. Parents didn't see it as dangerous. They saw it as cultural, part of growing up in Britain rather than something to be feared. Today, allowing a child to drink alcohol could lead to serious legal consequences if discovered, but for generations, it was an accepted part of family life. Number 4. Firearms and air rifles sold to minors. Air rifles and pellet guns were once sold to children with little more than a quick glance from the shopkeeper and a nod from the parent standing nearby. Parents allowed their children to own and use these weapons, often unsupervised, shooting cans in fields, barns, and back gardens with little understanding of the risks involved. In rural areas especially, this was treated as normal, almost a rite of passage, rather than something requiring strict control. Today, selling or allowing access to firearms for minors would trigger serious criminal charges, weapons offenses, and police involvement, but not long ago it was seen as harmless fun. Number 5. Kids handling farm machinery. On farms across Britain, children climbed onto tractors, operated machinery, and helped with heavy equipment long before they were legally allowed to drive a car. Parents trusted them to learn by doing, believing that responsibility came from exposure rather than protection. There were no helmets, no guards, and no safety briefings, just experience passed down through observation and necessity. Today, allowing a child near active farm machinery would violate multiple safety laws, leading to investigations and prosecutions, but for decades, it was simply how farming families survived. Number 6. Kids sent to buy cigarettes. Parents once handed children money and sent them to the shop to buy cigarettes, often with a note, sometimes without, and shopkeepers rarely refused. Children stood at the counter, repeating the brand name they had memorized, and walked home with cigarettes in their pockets, feeling trusted rather than troubled. No one considered the health implications, and certainly no one thought of it as exposing a child to harm. Today, selling cigarettes to a minor is a criminal offense, and parents who facilitated it could face serious consequences, but it was once as normal as buying bread. Number 7. Corporal punishment at home. Physical punishment in the home was widely accepted, encouraged, and rarely questioned, with parents believing it was necessary to teach respect and discipline. Smacking, slapping, and harsher punishments were treated as private matters, beyond the reach of law or authority. Neighbors heard it, teachers knew it, and society largely looked the other way. Today, many of these actions would lead to police involvement and social services intervention, but for generations, parents were allowed to enforce discipline physically without consequence. Number 8. Children playing on active building sites. Children once treated construction sites as playgrounds, climbing scaffolding, jumping into sand piles, and exploring half-built structures without supervision. Parents knew where their children were, but rarely stopped them, assuming they would learn their limits naturally. There were no fences, warning signs, or protective barriers, just curiosity and risk. Today, allowing children access to an active building site would result in immediate legal action, but it was once an ordinary part of growing up. Number 9. Hitchhiking by children. Children and teenagers regularly hitchhiked across towns and even across the country, standing by roadsides with their thumbs out, relying on strangers for lifts. Parents allowed it because it was cheap, practical, and common, especially for school trips, summer jobs, and visits to friends. The dangers were rarely discussed, and success stories outweighed cautionary tales. Today, a child hitchhiking would prompt police alerts and investigations, but it was once considered adventurous rather than dangerous. Number 10. Smoking around children everywhere. Parents smoked in cars, homes, pubs, and public transport, often with children sitting beside them, breathing in thick clouds of smoke. No one warned them of the dangers, and few parents considered it harmful, because everyone did it. Children grew up associating smoke with warmth, comfort, and adulthood rather than illness. Today, smoking around children can lead to fines and intervention, but it was once an unavoidable part of daily life. Number 11. Letting children roam unsupervised all day. Parents once allowed children to leave the house in the morning and return only when it got dark, with no way to contact them and no expectation of updates. Children crossed towns, explored fields, and disappeared for hours without concern. Parents trusted the environment rather than monitoring behavior. Today, this level of freedom would raise immediate safeguarding concerns, but it was once the foundation of childhood independence. Number 12. Children handling dangerous tools. Children were allowed to use knives, saws, and power tools long before safety training existed. Parents believed competence came from experience, not restriction. Injuries were treated as lessons rather than warnings. Today, allowing unsupervised use of dangerous tools by children could result in legal consequences, but it was once considered practical parenting. Number 13. Children walking alone at night. Children walked home alone after dark, through unlit streets, fields, and alleyways without escorts or communication. Parents allowed it because there was no alternative, and because fear hadn't yet been institutionalized. Today, this would prompt police involvement and safeguarding reviews, but it was once unavoidable. Number 14. Dangerous toys sold without restrictions. Explosive chemistry sets, sharp-edged toys, and toxic materials were marketed directly to children. Parents bought them without hesitation, trusting manufacturers and tradition. Injuries were common, but rarely questioned. Today, many of these toys would be banned outright, and parents could be held responsible for allowing their use. Number 15. Police. Looking the other way. Parents relied on informal authority, knowing that minor incidents would be handled quietly rather than formally. Warnings replaced charges, and discretion replaced paperwork. Children learned boundaries through experience rather than records. Today, this informal system has vanished, replaced by strict procedures and documentation. Number 16. Accepting danger as normal. Perhaps the most striking thing parents allowed was danger itself, woven into daily life without constant intervention. Scrapes, risks, and close calls were treated as part of growing up rather than signs of failure. Parents trusted resilience more than protection. Today, that trust would often be interpreted as negligence. None of this means parents didn't care. They cared deeply, just differently. They raised children in a world with fewer rules, fewer protections, and far fewer consequences. And only now do we realize how much responsibility they carried without knowing it. What was once normal has become unthinkable, and what was once allowed is now criminal. And the real question isn't whether they were wrong, but how quickly the line between normal and illegal can move. Which one surprised you the most?